Hello YouTubers, Alaska Prepper here. So I've been subscribed. Actually, I just had to resubscribe because for some reason I got unsubscribed. Excuse me. To a channel called Rethinking the Dollar. And today on this video I'm going to shout that channel out. The host of Rethinking the Dollar, his name is Michael, and he lives in Detroit. And he has a great channel that I've been subscribed to for, man, several years now. I don't know exactly how long, but it's been a long time that I've been subscribed to his channel. And he does a great job in trying to educate people on what money really is and on what our economy is looking like. You know, really on a daily basis. He probably puts out a video at least once a day, if not every other day. And he does a few live streams per week. So I encourage everyone to go and check out Michael's channel, Rethinking the Dollar. I am going to leave the link pinned on a comment, and I will also leave the link to his channel on the description of this video. I encourage you guys to go and take a look at his channel. Also, Michael wrote a short book, which I'm going to read to you guys. So, and I really don't like reading, but I'm going to read this. It's probably about 10 pages. I'm going to read it. And the reason I'm reading it is because Michael provides this book for free in PDF format. All right, so if you go to his channel and look at the description on his channel, on any one of his videos, he will have this book that he wrote on there for anyone to download for free. Okay, that's why I feel comfortable with reading this to you guys, because he provides this book for free for anyone to get that wants it. Okay, so the name of the book is 5 Reasons to Hold Precious Metals Before the Next Recession. And let's start it off. Okay, the year 2019 is fast approaching, and there's so much uncertainty in the political and economic sphere. The elected officials of our country are so divided that it's hard to agree on what's best for our nation as a whole. It seems like only suggestions coming out of Washington, D.C. is on how much should or shouldn't be sent from a financial account that's already operating in the negative. Our nation is currently $21+ trillion, and let me add that it's fast approaching $22 trillion in the hole for public debt, comprised of public and intergovernmental holdings. And what he means by intergovernmental holdings are loans that the government has taken from government programs such as Social Security. That doesn't even include long-term obligations, which include all the entitlement and retirement liabilities. For example, Social Security, welfare, Medicaid, Medicare, government pensions, etc., owed to public workers. To make it even worse, there's no trustworthy statistics coming from the government agencies that are even worth trying to keep tabs on. Ladies and gentlemen, I apologize in advance if you hear that my heater is running on the background. The best source of actual accounting has come from non-governmental payroll economists, which has estimated the total obligations of the nation as well over 63 trillion and counting. And ladies and gentlemen, many economists think that it's well over that it's in the hundreds of trillions of dollars. At some point, this financial deck of cards must come crumbling down. This is just what's happening on a national level. It doesn't include the turmoil happening on the municipal level in various states like Illinois, California, Kentucky, where they are having major problems with keeping basic services running. To make it even worse, the most notable and newsworthy problems that are gaining more attention in the alternative media world is the pension crisis for all those same states. The fact that there have been too many promises made with little concern on how to live up to those financial obligations is the reason a lot of people are in for a rude awakening. The financial affairs of the United States of America have reached a point of complete monetary chaos. This chaos has ruined the credibility of our nation, and the stewardship over the current reserve currency has been brought into question by our creditors. Not only has too much debt and the increasing deficit spending of the federal government tarnished the reputation of the nation, but has siphoned the wealth of the citizens that depend on the national currency, the Federal Reserve note. And how have they siphoned our wealth, ladies and gentlemen? No, it's not through the stock market. The greatest tool, the most effective and efficient tool that they've used to siphon our wealth is the tool of inflation. And that's my opinion. That's not in this book. That's my opinion. Inflation is what is called a hidden tax, because most people do not understand that the inflation of the money supply decreases the value of the paper that they hold in their pocket or the digits that they think they have in their accounts. Okay, carrying on. The national currency that was in circulation during the great industrialization period of this nation was lost long ago. In the past few decades, since the removal of silver from coins and the closing of the gold window by President Nixon, the central bankers have led this nation down a path of monetary suicide. Since the Great Depression nearly collapsed the financial markets around the world, the bankers of the world have implemented unmanageable policies that have further indebted the nation through easy money implementation and guaranteed credit to anyone with a pulse. Who would have imagined that people would lend money to a bank and receive no interest in return? The idea of being forced to spend money, being told by celebrities on television you can earn cash back, is completely absurd. Yet this is the world we live in, and it's not going to get any better, I'm afraid. That is why no better time than this year to think beyond the conventional school of thought. Those that wait to get their daily news or information from the mainstream channels will be recipients of yesterday's news when it's too late to take action. How many people found out about the financial catastrophe in 2008 after Bear Stearns and Lehman Brothers came crumbling down? The best preparation in uncertain times such as now is to be ahead of the news before it even happens. If you have been paying attention to the news, then you're definitely aware of the talk of the next pending recession. Now let's take a quick break here, ladies and gentlemen. First, let me ask you all to please go check this channel out. Take a look at a few of Michael's videos. And if you like his content, which I'm pretty sure you will, please subscribe and support his channel because he does really good work. And if you do subscribe to his channel, do me a favor. Tell Michael that Alaska Prepper sent you. He'll know exactly who I am because I usually call into his live stream shows. I've called into his live stream shows pretty often, so I've talked to him a few times. And he's a great guy, let me tell you guys. Okay, so carrying on. This is the next chapter. The next recession may be our last. When the next recession comes, many people who lose their jobs will have a harder time getting unemployment insurance, an important lifeline for most Americans. Those who don't get benefits will have to settle for the sort of fake jobs our economy produces in abundance. A service industry job as a waiter or greeter at a retail store, or a gig delivering groceries to people who still have careers. Talk of a recession is in the air again after the recent wobble of the stock market during the second month of 2018. It's likely the next recession will occur in the next couple of months under the Trump administration and newly elected Fed Chairman Jerome Powell. Maybe it'll happen as a result of his inflation baiting tax bill. Maybe it'll have something to do with excessive debt bubble bursting because of the trillions in student loans, credit card or auto debt reaching all-time highs. There's no way of predicting how it will happen, but if history is a good teacher, it's not hard to predict how severe the next recession will be on the economy. Now, ladies and gentlemen, just to go ahead, let me break off real quick, just to go ahead, where he mentioned student loans, credit card debt, auto debt. All right, student loans right now, the U.S., I believe we just broke over $1.5 trillion in student loans, okay? Credit cards, I believe we just broke over $1 trillion in credit card debt in the U.S. Auto debt, I believe we're over $1 trillion also in auto debt loans in the U.S. Just those three things equal to about roughly, I would say roughly what? 25% of our GDP, just those three debts that are held by the public. So it's a lot. And that's not even talking about the housing market either. Okay, a recession starts after economic activity has reached its peak. Right when things are better than ever is when they're about to get worse. But you won't know the recession has started until later, because the National Bureau of Economic Research waits until the government has finished its data revisions, which happens over a period of months. It wasn't until 2008 that the organization announced that the last recession had begun in 2007. There have been 11 recessions since World War II. The current economic expansion began in mid-2009, making it the third longest in history, and it can't last forever. All right, and if you guys get his book, he will have a chart here showing you all of the recessions that have happened since 1970. And just since 1970 alone, we've had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 recessions just since 1970 alone. Okay, so let's carry on. Not to be a killjoy, but historically there have only been 2 expansions that lasted as long as this one. To match the 120-month boom in the 1990s, we need the economy to keep growing past January of 2019, an occurrence that Wall Street Journal deems a very tall order. The general public victims seems to be suffering from amnesia, or rather choose to ignore the damage the last recession had on our economy. I would call that normalcy bias. How the S&P lost approximately 50% of its value, or the Dow Jones fell 20% from its October 2007 high. In my opinion, the next correction will be much worse because the overall health of the global economy has gotten plastered over with so much debt. How is the global economy worse than the last Great Depression is the question everyone should be asking themselves. Since 2009, the action by the newly formed G20 group of developed and developing nations is an attempt to stop a global meltdown. All had to cut interest rates to near zero. Let's see. Fiscal stimulus packages of varying sizes announced, and electronic money created through quantitative easing. At the London G20 summit on 2 April 2009, world leaders committed themselves to a $5 trillion fiscal expansion, an extra $1.1 trillion of resources to help the International Monetary Fund and other global institutions boost jobs and growth, and to reform the banks. The proposed reforms and credit expansion has led to an all-time high of global debt of $233 trillion and counting. And ladies and gentlemen, I do believe that Michael put this book out roughly a year ago. Okay, so now the global debt is even higher now than what it was then. The response to the last recession was to create more debt. Once the next recession happens, there won't be enough debt to be issued to prop up a projected stock market crash of 50% or more, massive unemployment of 30% or more, and government bonds becoming worthless pieces of broken promises. The next recession will lead to a collapse in monetary and fiscal policy around the world because governments won't be able to borrow their way out of the next market crisis. The end result will be the trigger for a transfer of wealth out of paper currency and digits into a safe and historical asset like gold and silver. This transfer in wealth I'm referring to will be the only time in history that citizens around the world, regardless of their current economic status, whether low income or high net worth individuals, can benefit from stupidity of government and central banks. In this book, I have laid out a very simple form, 5 reasons why you need to hold precious metals in your possession now. You will uncover a few of the top reasons to possess physical metals in your hands before the official recession is underway. The best insurance policy in the days ahead to preserve your hard-earned capital against the inflationary policy of governments is found in precious metals. Make no mistake, there are a lot of fancy new assets on the market that's getting lots of attention, but don't hang your financial future on fancy and convenient rather than assets that's time-tested and are rare. Take the time to read and better understand the reasons to own precious metals. If only one of the 5 reasons shine light on the subject at hand, you could be saving your prosperity or your posterity from financial ruin while also securing generational wealth to last you for the rest of your life. That right there is pretty strong words. All right, securing generational wealth to last you for the rest of your life. So what Michael is saying here is that right now, all right, throughout the world, not just in the US, but throughout the world, I believe there are a few countries that have actually outlawed the purchase of precious metals. And I'm not sure if Turkey's one of them. Not sure, okay? But at least here, ladies and gentlemen, and throughout most of the world, the layman, all right, the average person in the street can walk into a coin shop, buy an ounce of silver, or buy a gram of gold, all right? So what he's saying now is that now the layman can actually walk in and get this stuff, and that later on, due to inflation and due to the markets collapsing because of all of the debt that the world is under, that a lot of that wealth that has been transferred will end up being transferred back into physical assets, precious metals, because there will just be way too much debt out there, right? And people are going to want to put their wealth somewhere that's tangible, that they can actually hold in their hands. All right, so now let's go ahead and read the 5 reasons, okay? So here's the first one. Precious metals will protect your portfolio in times of crisis. One of precious metals' strongest advantages is that it can protect your investments, even your standard of living. During periods of economic, monetary, and geopolitical crisis, and depending on the nature of the crisis, gold can move from a defensive tool to an offensive profit machine. When a crisis strikes and drives fear higher, whether it's from investors worried about the stock market or a full-blown event affecting the livelihood of all citizens, precious metals is a natural safe haven. Fear is what drives people in a crisis, so the greater the worry, the more precious metals are sought and the higher its price goes. A lot could be written about various crises that are possible today. Such crises as the underfunded pension issues impacting a majority of the states. The sad fact still remains that millions of hardworking Americans have put into the Social Security program might not be collecting a check one day or receiving a payout that doesn't purchase much. The list of possible scenarios of crisis that can impact your portfolio is unending, but the main point to take away from this is that the level of risk investors face in this economy because of fiscal and monetary policy has been elevated drastically. There are so many risks, in fact, that the precious metals price is more than likely to make new all-time highs in response to whatever issue our nation faces. Keep in mind that since the year 1500 AD, a whopping 617 fiat currencies have been in circulation, and every single one of them are now collector's items because they are worthless. About a quarter of those was due to hyperinflation. The message from history is very clear. No fiat currency has ever lasted forever. Eventually they all fail, and today they're all made of paper, backed by nothing but your faith, confidence, and the fact they can still be exchanged for goods and services, at least for now. Okay, number 2. Precious metals require no specialized knowledge, and they are easy to store. Unlike most financial asset classes, you don't need to have some special certification or take courses in order to purchase precious metals. In the paper asset world of stocks, bonds, and insurance instruments, the financially educated individual is forced to study long hours and hope to pass an exam in order to obtain a paper certificate or license to be labeled as an advisor. In the precious metals world, your everyday investor could be a teenager or a senior citizen, and all they need to know is that gold and silver are rare metals from the earth that have held their value well before the invention of paper assets. There are a variety of asset classes available on the market, and in order to invest in the precious metals market, no formal education is needed. For the price of a cup of coffee or admission into a movie theater, a person can purchase a book on the history of money and see for themselves that gold and silver coins have always been labeled as legal tender for goods and services since the invention of books themselves. When it comes to precious metals, the cost of storing them ranges from free all the way to a small fee for a segregated account at a depository. Whether you choose professional storage, which does come with a fee, vaulting charges are typically low though, and compare a small storage bill to the cost and headaches of, say, real estate, you can just lock your metals away until you need them. No late renter payments, no calls to fix a broken toilet or complicated tax issues. Of course, you can always hide or secure precious metals in your home too. Keep in mind that when it comes to gold, its value is dense. That means it packs a lot of value in a small space. You can hold $50,000 of gold in the palm of your hand, or store it in a small place in your home, and at any price above $1,300 an ounce, you can store more value in a safe deposit box with gold than stacks of dollar bills. Precious metals are the only asset classes that require very little knowledge to acquire them and no extra effort to secure in your own possession. Unlike conventional assets, a lack of knowledge and training has forced the majority of people to pass all the responsibility of their financial well-being to an automated computer or third-party conglomerate to secure their investment portfolios for them. The last thing you would want in the case of another Great Recession style event is to have a majority, if not all your wealth, tied up in digital or paper form in the hands of someone else. History has shown that when panics happen, the last place you will be able to go is to your ATM machine, or better yet, the ability to call your broker or advisor to see if you needed to withdraw or sell paper assets during a market-wide crisis. The third one, precious metals have no counterparty risk. If you hold precious metals, no paper contract is needed to make it whole. No middleman or other party is necessary to fulfill a contractual obligation. That's because precious metals are the only financial asset that is not simultaneously some other entity's liability. So pretty much what he's saying here, you better hold it if you want to own it. So if you own it, you have to hold it. If you're buying a paper gold in the form of an ETF or a contract, you really don't own the gold because you don't have it in your hands. What you own is a promise that you will get that gold, but that can turn pretty bad. All right, carrying on. Every other asset you can think of has a variety of parties that depend upon the trust and cooperation of others. For example, if you have a 401k or pension for that matter, when accounting for the risk in comparison to metals, it is much higher. The financial stability and health of so many parties, ranging from your employer, brokerage house, the company offering the share, and the market, the government, the central banking policy, all impact the health of your financial future. If there's one error on any part of that chain, you could lose a lot or all of your investment. This is important because precious metals will be the last man standing when bubbles pop or crisis hits. That's a powerful tool to have in your portfolio when things start to go wrong in your country or economy. It also means precious metals won't go to zero. It's never happened in its 5,000 plus year history. That's a powerful feature, especially if you ask former shareholders of companies like Bear Stearns, Enron, or Lehman Brothers. The most notable threat to your financial future is the fact that precious metals also comes with a central bank risk guarantee. The fact that in a desperate attempt to stem the last crisis, the Great Depression, the Great Recession, government officials around the globe all decided to flood the world with currency and push the purchasing power of precious metals exponentially higher. During the economic boom period, prior to the dot-com bubble bursting, an ounce of gold was roughly $400 to $500 an ounce. After the war on terror started, all the way through the Great Recession, the price skyrocketed to an all-time high of $1,917.90. And that happened in August of 2011. This was all driven by poor fiscal management by governments and unprecedented central bank policy that was started by the Federal Reserve Bank in response to ongoing financial crises. Unlike the past decade, their efforts won't work as easy next time there's a financial crisis. Depending on how much money they print, it could easily tip us into hyperinflation. Regardless of the culture or time period, currency dilution has repeatedly resulted in much higher gold and silver prices. Precious metals will always have value. You can always sell it if you need currency, but you won't always be able to exchange paper when you want metals. Okay, number 4, precious metals are tangible assets. If you buy precious metals, you can hold them in your hand, something you can't do with most any other investment. Real gold and silver can't be destroyed by fire, water, or even time. And unlike other commodities, precious metals don't need feeding, fertilizer, or maintenance. A lot of people may try and criticize precious metals because they don't produce income, misunderstanding their role in a portfolio. It isn't the metal's job to produce income. Their function is as money and a store of value. I'm going to read that again. It isn't the metal's job to produce income. Their function is as money and a store of value. This is also why precious metals shouldn't be viewed as just another commodity. They don't get used up like oil or corn, since almost all the metals ever dug up is still in existence. Since gold has always been viewed as the most valuable of the two metals, every single ounce ever mined is locked away in a vault. Governments, central banks, private institutions, and wealthy families have included gold along the categories of generational wealth storage alongside the importance of having land and artwork. Silver, on the other hand, is a more common metal for industrial purposes and has made all the modern technology we enjoy today possible. Without silver in cell phones, televisions, and medical uses, the world wouldn't be the same. Okay. The idea of being able to hold rare metals that come from the earth and can't be printed by bankrupt governments should be viewed as an honor and privilege in the 21st century. Due to the ever-increasing government and consumer debt around the world, the idea of holding assets in your possession that is time-tested and has proven to be the last asset class standing during times of chaos, precious metals are a guaranteed insurance policy that will pay out big for those that recognize the importance of holding them. There's another advantage to precious metals, being a tangible asset. They can't be hacked or erased. Unlike brokerage accounts, bank accounts, and payment services like credit cards, metals are out of reach from hackers and identity thieves. In today's world, it's probably a good idea to have some of your wealth outside of a digital form. If the power goes out, for example, the internet isn't available or your online world comes crashing down, those metals you possess aren't affected one bit. In fact, in that scenario, they could be a lifesaver for you and your family. A great example would be the most recent hurricane that struck the island of the Caribbean, most notably Puerto Rico in 2017. They were without power for months and had no access to cash from banks or ATMs. Those that held tangible assets had an opportunity to function somewhat normal, while those that didn't have cash or metals became economic victims of Mother Nature. That was just an isolated event, or some event on some islands due to the weather. Imagine an event caused by a banking blunder, or worse, a stock market crash. Alright, the last one here. Precious metals are money. Precious metals are not used as a currency today, but their role as money makes it superior to any currency. In fact, gold has been money longer than any currency in history. Gold has been a store of value for at least 5,000 years, while one of the longest currencies in history, the British pound, is about 1,200 years old. Along with that, silver has been considered the money of the people since the founding of the United States of America. Prior to the Coinage Act that demonetized metals over the last 100 years, the primary circulating currency were gold and silver coins. One of the crucial promises of having a money you can trust is that it serves as a long-term store of value. Precious metals fulfill that promise better than any fiat currency in history, and that is true. Look how much purchasing power the Federal Reserve note has lost in comparison to one gold coin over 100 years. The best way to understand the importance of precious metals is to be able to distinguish between the words fiat currency and sound money. For the majority of people, currency, more specifically fiat currency, is cold hard cash. They are the dollars, pesos, or yen you keep in your wallet or purse, as such currencies serve the function of being a country's primary medium of exchange in the form of coins or paper. In the pre-modern era, countries moved from precious metals to currency as a way to facilitate exchange among the economy's participants. Gold, silver, and copper were typically cumbersome and hard to transport. Banknotes were once a type of currency backed by gold and silver in the U.S. As such, banknotes could be exchanged for legal tender at any time. And what he means by legal tender, gold and silver. All right. So, ladies and gentlemen, for those of you that may be a little younger, there was a time in the U.S. where you can actually go to the bank, give them a $10 bill, all right, and they would give you $10 worth of silver, all right, or 10 silver dollar coins. At any time, let me read this again. Banknotes were once a type of currency backed by gold and silver in the U.S. As such, banknotes could be exchanged for legal tender at any time by the owner. U.S. silver certificates, for example, could be exchanged for their face value in silver from 1878 to 1964. If you were alive during that time, it was very common to be able to redeem paper currency in exchange for sound money at a local bank. Today, the premier fiat currency that has the longest lifetime and has served as the world reserve currency is the Federal Reserve note. Since the creation of this note in 1913, the United States government, along with the Federal Reserve Bank, have inflated the supply of notes and digital dollars to astronomical numbers. Along with the expansion of the money supply, has led to a much higher cost of living and the stealth theft of purchasing power from savers and retirees at an annual rate of 2% inflation. That percentage has been the prescribed target of inflation that the Federal Reserve Bank is committed to achieving at all costs. Let me take a really quick break right here so I can say something. So ladies and gentlemen, when the Fed sits up there and says our target is 2% inflation, what they are really saying is that their target is to take an additional 2% of your wealth from you every year. That is exactly what they're saying when they're saying that they have a target of inflating by 2% per year. They are saying that you are going to be taxed an additional 2% on your wealth each year. That's what they're saying. Okay, carrying on. The Federal Reserve note starting this year will be the subject of the mainstream news a lot. Not only do we have a central bank chasing what they consider a healthy rate of inflation at 2%, but more importantly, we have the Secretary of Treasury of the United States, Steve Mnuchin, that thinks it's good for the USA to have a weak dollar. The current policies in place are all designed to weaken or destroy the Federal Reserve note one day. No one knows exactly how the faith and confidence in the dollar will end, but one thing is for sure. When this current monetary paradigm changes, it will all boil down to how many ounces you have in your possession and not how many digits in your bank account. Keep in mind, every paper dollar or currency in your possession is a liability of your government that's owed back to the issuing central bank with interest. So the paper money you spend, save, and invest is a major threat to your long-term financial stability. Remember, there have always been two certainties, death and taxes. Since the beginning of 2018, we might as well add inflation. Well, inflation, taking a break, inflation in my opinion is a tax. It is just a tax that is not really said that it is a tax, but it is a tax on us. If you don't lose all your hard-earned cash through the first two, you are almost guaranteed to lose it through the last one, no matter what. Uncle Sam is coming for what is rightfully his. And ladies and gentlemen, that's it. That is the book. I hope you guys stuck through this because it's a great book. Like I said, I'm going to go ahead and leave this. I'm going to go ahead and leave Michael's link on the description, and I'm going to pin it on a comment. Okay, so please go and visit Michael at Rethinking the Dollar. All right, if you decide to subscribe, say, hey, Michael, Alaska Prepper sent me. I think he'll get a chuckle out of that. And I hope that you got something out of this. Ladies and gentlemen, prepping is not just about getting food and water. It's also about prepping for your financial future. Okay? Yes, I've had community members tell me that they've made a lot of money in the stock market. But ladies and gentlemen, think about this. If you have $1 million today, with inflation, how long will it take for the purchasing power of that $1 million to buy you only $500,000 worth of stuff? So for example, if you have $1 million today, in 15 years, you're only going to be able to buy about $500,000 worth with that same $1 million than what you could buy today. Okay, so prepping is not just about getting food and water, and all of these things are extremely important, but being able to carry your wealth, being able to carry all that energy that you spent, all right, making your wealth, being able to carry that over, all right, into the next decade or 2 decades or 3 decades, that is important as well. Okay, if you think about how long would it take you to work to be able to buy 1 ounce of gold? Well, 1 ounce of gold is about, let's say, $1,300 today. Okay, it's a little less, but let's say $1,300. So let's say it takes you a week to earn $1,300. That means that 1 ounce of gold, if you purchase it, has 40 hours. All right, 40 or more hours, because you also have to consider the amount of time that it takes you to get to work, the amount of times that it takes you to get ready for work, all that. So that 1 ounce of gold, all right, if nominally is equivalent to what you make in a week, what that 1 ounce of gold represents is 40 plus hours of your time, of your energy. All right, that's what that represents. That is your wealth. All right, your wealth is your time, because with your time and your energy, you are able to produce wealth. Okay, so think about it that way. That is what you're preserving. Okay, and throughout history, precious metals have maintained their purchasing power. Okay, they have maintained their purchasing power, and they are real. So what you want to ask yourself is this: would you like to risk all of the digits that are on a computer that represent your wealth and leave it in someone else's hands on whether they can push this button or that button? Or will you like to at least preserve some of your wealth and purchasing power where no one else can touch it? All right, so if you have 1 ounce of gold in your hand, no one else can take that away from you unless they come and knock you over the head. But that's what the third B of prepping is for. Okay, so would you like to have some of that? That's just insurance. It is insurance that you have there. Okay, so make up your own minds. I do highly recommend that you go check this channel out. Do download that PDF. It's really easy to download. It took me like maybe 30 seconds to download it, and you can read it for yourselves and take notes. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, having said that, let me go ahead and sign off, because this is going on long enough. For those of you that stuck through it, thank you very much. Please give this a like if you enjoyed the reading. If you enjoyed my sacrifice of reading, because I really don't like to read very much. Please give it a like. Please share. All right. There's many ways of supporting the channel, and you know what those are. Just let a few ads run through. Please use my Amazon link. It's in the description. If you want to buy me a coffee, you can buy me a coffee. If you want to take a look at some precious metals, please use my SD Bullion link. It helps to support the channel as well. All right. So ladies and gentlemen, let me go ahead and sign off. Remember to be good to each other. When good people do good things happen. Remember to reach one, teach one, and repeat. If we all did this, the world would be a better place, and you know that it will be a better place. Many blessings to all of you and your families. This is Alaska Prepper, and I'm out.